Okay, Money in the Bank is on Saturday or Sunday or whatever day WWE decides to book everything in order to make sure that other people can't have any of their wrestling shows in. But with that said, we only getting 4 matches. That's kind of wild. And I was like, but at the same time, we've only really been getting like 5 and most of these things. And I was like, but it is kind of like, like they're like 2 big stipulations that I'm just like, okay, it makes a lot of sense. So that makes sense of why there's going to be whatever. I was like, only the 4 matches. Now, I think the intriguing part is going to be not necessarily who wins some of these matches, because I was like, I do think that some of these look on their face predictable, but I do think there is a little bit of more question here. I think it all really here depends on the lineup of the matches. For instance, you like the main event, you would have to think it's going to be Cena, Logan Paul versus Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. Just so I think that there's some intrigue on whoever wins the Money in the Bank. I think that like you got to at least have that in the show, that even if there's not a cash in, it is that whole thing of like, will there be? Will there be? Is this a good time? Look, they're both champions are like. Let's just start with this match. I was like, I think they're going to be at a point. John Cena and Jey Uso might both just be laying flat in the ring. Now I was like, nah, I think it would be weird for a cash in during the tag team match, but I was like, and I don't think that it will actually happen. I think the speculation will just hit where they're both down and out, where they they doing that whole like, I was like pose and whatnot, and then whoever wins is going to come out, have the briefcase, look at them both, and just be like, and then eventually nothing really happens from it or whatever. I think because I was like, if it's Cody Rhodes, he's going to stop the cash in on his boy. I was like, I don't think Logan Paul is necessarily going to stop somebody for doing that to Cena, but depending on who it is, might be something of like Logan Paul, like, what the hell, and they knock out Logan Paul or whatever. And I can see this how the match ends. I think the interesting spot would be if Cena and Logan Paul wins, but I was just because I think that it will build intrigue. One, that Cena keeps beating Cody Rhodes, no matter how you want to look at it. I was like, 2-0 versus Cody Rhodes. Jey Uso also losing before he has to face Gunther, that which is putting more doubt. And we seen on Raw with the whole bunch of tsunamis, he's gonna be a little banged up going into the match. So therefore, I think it's more intrigue for them to win or whatever. However, I think that Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso is going to get the win in a blah type of way, maybe due to the fact of the cash in or whatever. I think it'd be better. I was like, for Logan Paul and John Cena. My pick, if I gotta actually do picks, I'm gonna say Logan Paul and John Cena. I think that John Cena, what he's doing, trumps Jey in this situation, but it also helps Jey in his situation. As I just sort of stated out, doubt in the mind, John Cena keeps over here ruining wrestling with the YouTuber. I think that sort of just works out in his favor. Now, we're going to save the men's ladder match for a little bit later. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch. To me, I was like, I really don't see any way that Becky Lynch loses this match. I would like the stipulation of itself that she has the title in one hand, Lyra's holding up her hand in the other. The only way I can see that Lyra gets this, and this would be the only, and this really is the only way that you can do this without having Becky Lynch lose. Because if Becky Lynch loses just off rope, then what is this between her and Lyra? It's done. She can't fight for that title anymore, and it's just over. Becky's just going to have to do a new thing. So I was like, she has to win, unless Bayley comes out and helps out Lyra. That's the only way, because that's the only way you can drive off Becky Lynch to do something else, but she don't have to focus on the title. She can't do anything with the title anyway, because that's a stipulation. But Bayley and her having some type of thing. That's the only way that Becky Lynch can lose. Otherwise, to be honest, picking, I think Becky Lynch wins because you can still do the Bayley storyline at any point. You can still have Lyra come back and fight, because I was like, they're 1-1 now. So you can still have Lyra in the mix. I was like, you can have Bayley come back and now she's in the mix. I was like, at some point, Lyra and Bayley might be both working to fight Becky until the Intercontinental Championship is thrown in there. You got to think Bayley beat Lyra as well too for the championship. I was like, for the qualifier match in what was that? I think for the Elimination Chamber or what? No, right? Hold on. Anyway, I'm gonna get bogged down. I'm gonna start thinking, and then I'll derail the whole thing. But yeah, no, I think it was, and then they end up doing the little tag team thing. So I was like, So you can, so that always strikes up as well too, where just like in good faith, it's like, I've beaten you, Lyra or whatever. Anyway, Becky wins. That's how I think it's going to go, and then they can have more stories off of that, more so than just focusing on Bayley and Becky over here and Lyra. With whatever woman, I was like, that maybe that's the only other thing I could think of, because we got a whole new set of women coming up. Jordan Grace, maybe. We already done seen Roxanne, Julia, and Stephanie Vaquer. Maybe. So, and then we dropped the whole thing with her and Ivy Niles. So anyway, the women's Money in the Bank, I think, has the chance to be probably the most fun of the two. I think it's the most intriguing of the two, because I can see that, I was like, to me, there's two top people, and then you have a wild card in a way that the men's don't. So the two people that basically going to be vying for this is Rhea Ripley and Naomi. Rhea Ripley got the whole thing where she's like, I'm trying to come from you, EO, and I was like, I'm going to do this the right way, or whatever, because I was a brat beforehand kind of thing. And her getting the briefcase, being mommy in the bank, had a chance to look good as well on her, and it's like she could pull off, and they're going into Australia, so you gotta imagine that will be the time that she does an actual cash in or whatever. So she got that story. Naomi, I think, has the better overall like story, character, everything she's doing, that I was like, she deserves it at this point. I was like, one, she got the Bianca stuff, the Jade stuff. She's been into it a little bit with Tiffany, a little bit with Nia. So you already see like there's already a vortex that she's in that could carry a whole bunch of other people as well. I was like, that could carry a bunch of other storyline, because I was like, while Jade is over here trying to get them to the championship, Naomi can always just be like, I got the briefcase, though. I can get this at any moment. That's what she can do. Plus, it's like we missed opportunities several times to do a glow-in-the-dark Money in the Bank briefcase. Just like Mommy, I was like, let's also be honest. If they can brand this however they want to, they're going to stamp it. They're going to brand these type of things. But now that she got the caution gimmick over here, guess what? Now the whole thing is in police tape and stuff like that. Boom. I was like, so that's why I was like, those two are at the top. The wild card is one of the young ones. Either Roxanne, Julia, or Stephanie Vaquer. Now, I want to take out Julia just because I think that she hasn't had the same momentum as these two. Roxanne has been in Elimination Chamber. She's been close in the Royal Rumble. I was like, she has like fought, but she had been into it with Bayley. She had been into it with the women's the Io Sky and the championship people. I was like, in the main championship scene. I was like, she has been prominent on TV for a long time. She's in Judgment Day. She's in an actual storyline right now, to where it's like she has enough. I was like, I don't think she's going to get it. If she wasn't in the Judgment Day storyline, I would think that she would get it. But because she's in that, I'm like, no, she got her own stuff to do. That's going to be. She got something to do, actually. Stephanie Vaquer, while also hadn't really been in any storylines, like really, every time that she's been on Raw, the crowd goes crazy for her. I was like, they're into her move. I was like, whether she over here just slams the person in the face, onto the mat. I was like, she doesn't have to speak English, and people aren't really giving her the whole like, what? They're not doing any of that with her. So she's at a good spot right now to where it's like, if you wanted to do a we are, I can't say rioting, but if they wanted to put a rocket on somebody, she's the one to put a rocket on. Now, like I said, I was like, maybe they want to throw her into the intercontinental scene and stuff like that. But to me, I think it would be cool if she had the Money in the Bank briefcase. You could do the horns on that as well too. Like she got a thing as to if you could sort of brand that as well. And that's why I don't think that Julia had a shot here, because I was like she was doing stuff with Roxanne Perez and she was sort of in that, but now she moved to SmackDown and it just sort of just kind of like she's sort of starting over from scratch. I think that with that U.S. title scene, I was like needing someone to be like have it in the women's main championship being full, that I was like, I feel like that's the spot that she's going to be at. Whereas, like I said, Roxanne already got a story with Judgment Day and stuff, and Stephanie doesn't have a storyline, but she's over in a way that I think that she could easily be put in main championship matches already. And you think about who's really up there. Io Sky, Rhea's doing the thing. Who else do you really have? You can't throw Liv in there because you already have done sort of that. I think Io and Liv are going to sort of run it back, because you got to think that Liv got over on Io a couple times and stuff like that. That I was like her, and even though they're not Damage Control anymore, they're still cool. That there's still beef there. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Liv gets a match, making Rhea sort of mad at Liv got a match. You know, I was like something down the road. But Stephanie could easily be involved there automatically and just be like cool. And I was like, because the other women right now all have other stuff to where it's like they should be sort of intercontinental style. I was like, nobody else has moved up, if you get what I'm saying. So, who wins? Because I was like, I feel like may have been a long, drawn out way of me just rambling. I was like, I think that Naomi should win. I think they're going to give it to Rhea. She's already the biggest star. I was like, to me, it's no different than when John Cena got it. I think this is going to be what it is. They got the Australia thing coming up. I was like, they're helping. She's babyface. She's going to do it up front, face to face. I think that's how it's going to be. Stephanie Valcour is also babyface, so that's why I'm just like, I was like, that's why I can see her not getting it in comparison to some of the others. I know I didn't even bring up Alexa Bliss, because there's no point in bringing up Alexa Bliss. She is just here just so that she can get good pops. They didn't do anything with her at WrestleMania. Her coming back, I was like, she's sort of just there at this point. I think Rhea's going to get it. I think Naomi deserves it, but also I think that heel wise it's just better, and her being heelish with it. But going to the men's match, I think it's pretty obvious of who we think is going to win. I think it's Seth Rollins. I don't really think that there's really even a wild card here. I don't think there's a number 2 here. I was like, to me the number 2, the wild card to me would be Penta. I think Penta would be, and I think they're both actually El Americano. I was like, I think they're both the wild card. I don't think there's a number 2. LA Knight would be a cool number 2 to just basically just be like, hey, give him the briefcase, because you could bring that with LA Knight and the briefcase. But I just don't see it right now. I do think that he'll win it at some point, because I think that's the only way to get him a championship, but I don't think this is it right now. I was like, but Seth is so on the nose that it's kind of like he always can sort of stay in the wheelhouse of the championship, that could you give it to somebody else for better? And that's really the question. Because it's like, if you give it to El Americano, the whole thing now becomes he gets the title shot, not Chad Gable. So do we eventually see some type of reveal kind of thing? Do we see something of like, I don't know. I was like, you can't do mask and briefcase, because I was like, he had both. So I was like, Solo, it would just be funny, but I was like, he had the championship matches. I was like, he's not getting the briefcase. They're not even doing bloodline thing anymore, so it doesn't really even do anything there. Andrade's just there because he does cool shit. That's it. I was like, Penta to me, I was like, they've relegated him to the mid-card scene quite a while than when he first joined. I was like, I do think that it'd be cool for him to have the briefcase, just because I was like, I feel like where he's sort of at now, that's the only way he's going to really get it. Not that I don't think he'll be in a World Heavyweight Championship match, because I was like, he'll win one of these number one contender type of things one time before. But I was like, as him an actual champion, the briefcase actually sort of stamps it. I was like, so he would sort of be the number 2 wild card. El Americano's the wild. I was like, his main wild card. LA Knight's a cool pick or whatever. But like I said, it's going to be Seth Rollins, and I was like, Penta would probably be the other person I can only think of, because I was like, he can make that briefcase also something. Even as a babyface, he get a little bit more intrigue to it. But I was like, they're going to just use the briefcase probably as more of a story than actually having a person this time around. So therefore, it's going to be Seth. Which does sort of make it a little difficult for my idea of if John Cena and Jey Uso are both laid out flat, Seth Rollins is not going to be like, that would be more so that was El Americano. I was like, that he would be the one that would come in and just look and do that whole thing bouncing around. I was like, LA Knight, he's another guy that would probably be like, yeah, and then do something as well. Yeah, I was like, Solo, I'm just thinking of like who just doing in this part of what my fantasy booking. I was like, Solo's another person that would just sort of just like, But you also, I think, you don't want there to be a chump as the Money in the Bank. That's why it won't be Solo, because Solo will get easily taken out by Cody Rhodes or Jey Uso somehow getting up, kicking his brother in the face or whatever. So, I think it's Seth Rollins. I was like, I don't think that makes sort of the match later on, if they do that, a little less intriguing. I was like, but I don't think Seth would. I don't think John Cena would do anything to Seth. But I was like, you could see Cody Rhodes and stuff like that. You know what? Now that I say that would make it intriguing. Is Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins are now looking face to face. He has the briefcase, and he knows Jey Uso's right there. And then it's like, yo, you helped me. Like, this is what you want to do, kind of thing. So I can see that maybe. Anyway, enough of me rambling and doing my booking or whatever like that. Who do you want to win the Money in the Bank matches? Not necessarily who you think is, because I feel like we're a lot on the same page in a lot of these. Some cases, I'm going on a whim with a couple of them or whatever. You know what? For the men's Money in the Bank, I'm not gonna say Seth Rollins wins. Nah. I'm gonna say LA Knight wins. Let's go out there. If we're making bets, let's go out there. Anyway, let me know what you think. Till then, we'll see how this all goes. Money in the Bank. A little scrappy.